What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Davey Sports Podcast. This is episode 188, recording this on the evening of Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. I just wanted to talk about some Aztecs and Padres stuff real quick. Start off with the Aztecs. So that was a disappointing loss Tuesday night against UNLV. Actually swept by UNLV for the first time in over a decade. I mean, I can't believe that. I mean, just a really disappointing performance. A win would have, I think, locked them into an NCAA tournament bid. I still think they're in good shape. We'll talk about that here in a bit, but just gonna talk about the game real quick. I don't know how it always happens that some guy on the on the other team shoots a ridiculous percentage from three. It happens like way more than you think for how good the Aztecs defensive numbers on the season are. It just doesn't make sense. It's crazy. But overall, they missed too many free throws. They were too inconsistent on offense. They struggled rebounding. They really need Guath back. I mean, they've been out rebounded every game without him, and New Mexico struggled again against Nevada. They won, but they struggled against Nevada. And I've said this about New Mexico, like they kind of peaked too soon, and that was a second straight road game for them after they kind of got their ass kicked in Boise 6 days before they played us here. So I think they just caught New Mexico at a good time and they got them at home. I think that without Guath, you're seeing, it's not the same team that was playing really well the couple games before Utah State. They've been out rebounded in every game that he's not played the majority of. Utah State, he got hurt a minute into the game and they got out rebounded that game. They got out rebounded in the 3 games since then. And, they struggled in Wyoming and then they lost UNLV. And there's a couple things that I have a problem with on the team. I mean, the free throw shooting is so bad. Oh, it's a killer. I mean, when you play that many close games, like you got to hit your free throws, and they miss crucial ones too. Like they miss, an and one free throw, or they're down 5 and they get 2 free throws, and the guy misses the first, or they miss both in those situations. Like you got to hit your free throws. They don't do it, and it's costing them. And Bird shoots way too much when he's struggling. Even when he's struggling, he still just jacks up shots, and that hurts the team when he's just jacking up shots when he's not making them. That's what happened Tuesday night in Vegas. He was 2 for 10 from three, and he kept hoisting them up. It's like, dude, you're not shooting well. Stop. You're hurting the team, and you're an athlete. Like, get downhill, drive. It's really frustrating to me. Because he's such a dynamic athlete and great defensive player, gets steals going the other way, but then sometimes his shot selection's so bad and it just hurts the team when he tries to shoot his way out of these slumps. It's so bad. You also have to wonder too if playing in Laramie on Saturday night, and you have that's a tough travel, we all know that, and then you got problem with the plane, have to stay an extra night in Laramie, come back from the plane, go straight to an NIL event, and then they had like a light practice, and then the next day they're back on the plane to Vegas. You got to wonder if that, had an impact as well. I mean, I just talked about how I think New Mexico playing a second straight road game affected them against us. So I don't know. Now I see a lot of people worried about the NCAA tournament after losing that game, and I'll just say this: I still think the Aztecs are okay for now. I think they could have afforded to lose one of these last 2 games. Because this is a quad 2 loss. UNLV, surprisingly, they've played pretty well since Thomas went out. I don't know how, but they have. And their metrics are okay. Like that, it's a quad 2 loss. A quad 2 loss without Guath, who is arguably their best player, definitely their most important player, in my opinion. Didn't have him, and it was a quad 2 loss on the road. That doesn't knock you out of the tournament. And I mean, is it good? No. Does it hurt? Yeah, but I don't think it knocks them out, considering they were like a lot of most brackets had them as a 9 or 10 seed. And this isn't the kind of loss that takes you from a 9 or 10 seed to all the way out of the tournament. I think it was Jerry Palm now has them in the last 4 in, which means they're in the first 4, the play-in round in Dayton. So they're basically they'd be team 6 in the 65 through 6 team 65 through 68, but that's still in the tournament, and they still got a chance to improve that. I mean, they still have a better record than most better record in quad one, quad two games than most other bubble teams. And Maddie did a great feed thread on this today that he shared with me before he posted it. So I'm gonna go through it with you guys. Looking here, we are 4-5 in quad one and 8-7 combined quad one and quad two, and being 10-5 in road and neutral games is considered really good for the bubble. Let's look at some other teams that are on the bubble with the Aztecs. Baylor's 9-12, under 500 in quad one and quad two, and 5-10 on road or neutral site games. Georgia's 8-11 quad one and quad two, 5-8 road or neutral. Indiana's 8-12 quad one and quad two, 5-7 road or neutral. So that helps. And we still have the best win of any of these teams. Beat Houston on a neutral floor in Vegas. Baylor could get swept by Houston if they lose them on Saturday, which they probably will. And other teams that are in Dayton right now are in those last four the first four games on the Tuesday and Wednesday to get to they're playing in to get to the round of 64. Arkansas's this was coming into today. I believe Arkansas lost tonight. Let me check that real quick. Oh no, Arkansas didn't play tonight. Sorry. Arkansas is 7-12 in the first two quadrants. Ohio State's 9-13 in the first two quadrants. Oklahoma was 4-10 in quad one games coming into tonight, although they beat Missouri. That might help Oklahoma, but the other two teams didn't get that. But Oklahoma has two quad three losses. The Aztecs only have one. So you can't just look at the predictives like the net and the metrics and that, like based off who the Aztecs have beat and how they do in the first two quadrants, they still compare favorably to the other bubble teams. Now, I will say that I do think that Saturday against Nevada is a must-win game. And then I also think that they probably have to win the quarterfinal game on Thursday in the Mountain West tournament, which will be against either Colorado State or Boise State in all likelihood. And looking at those teams' metrics, or sorry, their net right now, Colorado State's 58, which would make that actually, I'm going to refresh this real quick to see. Boise State's 45 in the net. That would make them neutral site in the Mountain West tournament, a quad one game because it's top 50. And Colorado State's 56. So I guess that'd be a high quad two game. So you win the Thursday. And Nevada is currently a low quad two game right now. They're 74 in the net, although that'll probably drop to a quad three if we beat them on Saturday. But so you figure that if the Aztecs are going to pick up a quad one or quad two win, winning the quarterfinal of the Mountain West tournament would mean picking up a quad one or quad two win. And then, so that would be like the last thing that you really need, assuming they take care of business against Nevada on Saturday. And I think they're going to have Guath back for the Mountain West tournament, and we know what a big difference he makes. So the hardest part of all this might be beating Nevada Saturday without him, and then hopefully you get him back for the tournament, and then you win Thursday in the Mountain West tournament, and then you're probably in. So that's the way I see it. The thing that disappointed me the most about losing on Tuesday night was that I said if they went 1-1 against UNLV and at UNLV and then Nevada at home, that they would have been in. But now, like I said, that makes the Nevada game a must win. So I always like the to win the first one. When you say win one of two and you're in good shape, I always like to win the first one. They didn't win the first one, so now they got to win the second one. I mean, I don't like being in that position, but that's the position they're in. They did beat Nevada pretty easily. in Reno in late January. So hopefully they can. I actually think that was February 1st, but you get the point. And hopefully they can do the same on Saturday and then win a game in Vegas and not have to sweat it out on Selection Sunday. So I just wanted to say that about the Aztecs real quick. Moving on, I got some more Padres spring training thoughts. Hey, Nick Pivetta looked pretty good on Tuesday. 2 2/3 innings pitched, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, didn't allow any hits. Looked really good. And then you hear him talk about how Niebla is working with him on doing certain things with certain pitches, and that's kind of the whole. That was kind of the whole idea with Nick Pivetta, is that you get a guy who has the strikeout stuff, but gives up home runs or has a certain thing that you want to see in a pitcher, but his overall numbers aren't better, even though underlying numbers think, well, you can unlock something here with him. That's the kind of pitcher that Pivetta is. I mean, I know it's only one spring training start, and I'm going to get here into a second here why you shouldn't overvalue spring training by any means, but still, it's like the idea of what you're trying to see with Nick Pivetta is what you saw, at least in that first spring training game. Obviously, I'm going to need to see a lot more to say, oh, this guy's gonna be really good. But so far, so good. I told you guys why I thought he was gonna be good from the moment we signed him. And I think an important thing people need to realize about him is that um Pavetta is one of those guys where, like, you know, 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, the Padres would have signed this guy, be like, oh well, he has this number, so we figure we can unlock something with him, and then he'll be our top starting pitcher. Like, he's our fourth starting pitcher behind Cease, King, and Darvish. I don't know if that'll be the exact order, but actually it might be King, Cease, Darvish, because King pitched today, Wednesday. Cease is going Thursday, and then Darvish Friday. But you get the point. It's that, yeah, he's our fourth starter, and he has a chance to be pretty good, I think. So, yeah, that's Padres should have a very strong rotation, and that's the key because over 162 games, obviously, it's going to be hard, not impossible, but hard to beat out the Dodgers. So figure, like, well, what about in a best of 5 or best of 7? If you have really good pitching, you got a shot. And I think they're going to have really good pitching. We're going to talk about a couple other pitchers that threw today, as in Wednesday. Michael King, first Cactus League outing for him. Got himself into a jam, couple of walks and hit by pitch in the first, got out of that, then pitched a 1-2-3 second overall, 2 innings, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks and hit batter, no hits allowed. So, he looked good after, took him a little bit to settle in, but then he got out of that jam and pitched a really good second inning. So should be another nice season for him. Suarez, after that terrible outing against Kansas City on Sunday, looked pretty good today. Gave up a ground ball base hit, but got a couple strikeouts, didn't allow anything else. Got a strikeout on a changeup, actually, to end the innings. That was good to see, considering that I thought he became a little bit too predictable in the second half last year, and that's why he kind of struggled, and it was kind of a heart attack down the stretch. But that was good to see. And it goes to show too with spring training that maybe he was experimenting with other pitches and when he struggled on Sunday, and that's why he did poorly, and he wouldn't have done that in a regular season game. And I think that's an important thing to note here. Again, I'm going to get into that in a second. Just want to finish on today's thoughts. Alec Jacob, another 1-2 inning with 2 strikeouts. He's gonna be really solid. And right now you're looking at him as like a middle reliever. When you see Estrada, who, by the way, has not a lot of base runners this spring in his 2 or 3 outings. When you see Estrada, Adam, who has 3 perfect innings this spring as well. And then obviously Suarez as your 7, 8, 9. And then you see Alec Jacob as a guy who's like a middle reliever, and he's looked pretty good in his brief stints in the majors, and he's looked really nasty this spring. So yeah, that's a middle reliever for you. I mean, that should be pretty good. Obviously you still have Morejón, too, who had a really nice year as a reliever last year. Maybe that's the way you keep him healthy. It's just keep him in the bullpen as a middle reliever. You can get a lefty out in the middle of a game. If you're facing the Dodgers, it's like 3-2, 2 outs in the 6th inning, and Freeman's coming up, with a runner at first and 1 out. Maybe he can get you a double play with that sinker left on left, and then you're out of the inning. and also a guy who can get righties out too, as we saw last year with him. He's good. Really excited to see another season of him in the bullpen. I do want to say, this is what I was getting at. First, stop, for the love of God, people. Mostly Padre Twitter I'm talking about. Stop obsessing with the spring training record and stats. It truly does not matter. I mean, what are the Padres? 3-9, 3-10 in the Cactus League. I don't know. I don't care because it doesn't matter. The year the Cubs won the World Series, they had the worst record in the Cactus League. The Angels always have a good record in Cactus League play, and they suck every year. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2014. So who cares? I mean, and then people are like, well, but this guy looks bad or this guy looks good. First of all, why are you pointing out the guys that look bad way more than you're pointing out the guys who look good? Like, I see 100 times more tweets every time Cronenworth makes an out as opposed to, or Bogarts makes an out, as opposed to when, one of our good relievers or one of our starting pitchers pitches well. It's so dumb. Like, and these stats in Cactus League don't matter for these like established veterans, like, or guys who know, like, hey, no matter what happens this spring, I'm going to be on the roster. I'm going to be playing this position, hitting, this spot or this spot in the lineup, so I can, work on things or just, see pitches, get ready for the season. It's so meaningless, like, both ways. I mean, let's say Cronenworth, because people are like, oh, well, he hasn't done anything this spring. He looks terrible. I mean, Cronenworth hit 396 with power in spring training in 2023. He absolutely tore it up in spring training that year. And then he had a terrible regular season. Like, it doesn't. How about go back to 2019? Let's look at Ian Kinsler. He had hit 350 with an OPS of almost 1100 that year. I remember I went to spring training that year, and we were at the practice fields before the game. My dad's like, dude, Ian Kinsler looks so good. Like, in this spring, he's gonna have such a good year. And he did have a great spring training stats wise, like I just said. And then he stunk once the games actually mattered. Like, you can't take this too seriously. For guys who know they're going to be on the roster, know what position they're going to be playing, all that stuff. You cannot take it too seriously. That's really frustrating that I see this every spring training. It's not an indicator, guys. For if you know you're going to be on the team, know what position you're playing, it's not an indicator. Like, come on. And I know people are saying, well, and I've heard, well, we have the fewest runs in the Cactus League or whatever. Like, we just can't hit. It's like, there's been one game so far this spring where Tatis, Machado, and Merrill have been in the same lineup. One. Let's look at today, for example. I mean, people were all going crazy because Bogarts into a double play with Tatis at second after he got a hit and Cronenworth at first after he got a walk. It's like, okay, great. You would have had Merrill and Machado batting before even Cronenworth, let alone Bogarts, if it was a regular season game. And we're really using this as an indicator? Like, seriously? Come on, guys. Just come on. I mean, if they're still hitting like this on May 5th, then we'll talk about it. Then it's a concern. It's March 5th. Chill. And I know someone's going to say, but 2023 proved that, there's no more, it's early. Like, you have to, like, it's just as important in April as September. Stop. We were 3 games under 500 at the end of April last year. Turned out okay. I mean, the Braves were under 500 deep into July in 21, and they won the World Series. Philly was under 500 into June in 22. They ended up in the World Series. Like, we've seen this a lot more recently. It's like, well, the Padres were, 500. We were 50 and 50 through 100 games last year, guys. I mean, the 2023 thing is such a myth too, because the Padres blew games all season long. Like, when they lost 5-6 to Pittsburgh, those games were in June and July. When they lost that last game in Detroit, when you had the red hot Musgrove pitching against some guy Detroit called up before the game, that was in July. When they lost 2 of 3 to Washington, that was in June. I mean, they didn't lose because they slacked off in April, thinking it didn't matter or whatever. Like, no. I mean, you can, or it's early is still a thing, and last year should have proven that to you. I mean, the Padres were under 500 in June as well. They were 3 games under 500 in the middle of June. Ended up with 93 wins, and if they won one swing of the bat different in the division series, they against the Dodgers in games 1 or 5, they probably would have ended up winning the World Series. So I don't know what to tell you about, if you're so concerned on March 5th. Again, May 5th, maybe. March 5th, no. Just stop with that. I am not going to sit here and tell you, oh, everything's going great. There's no concerns about this team at all. Zero. That would be false. The biggest concern to me is catcher, because Elias Diaz and Luis Campusano have both been dreadful at the plate this spring. And this is a concern to me because Schultz said in one of his first press conferences meetings with the media in spring training that, they're competing for playing time, seeing who's going to end up being the primary catcher. So they actually have something on the line, and they've both been terrible at the plate this spring. So yeah, I do have a concern at catcher, but that's because those guys are competing for something and still playing awful. I mean, that's a problem. Not, guys who know what spot they're going to be in the lineup, not hitting in spring training stats wise. That doesn't matter. What does matter is that. And that's why catcher is like my big concern right now. The thing about Bogaerts too, I got to say, is that, that's just a dumb Padre Twitter thing, because like they never wanted him. So like even if he was really good, they'd still destroy him because, they never wanted him. It's the same thing with because it's the same thing with Eric Hosmer. I mean, Eric Hosmer didn't live up to the contract, and by the end, I was even kind of done with him. The second half of 21 and 22, with the exception of April, I was done with him too. But at the same time, like he never lived up to the contract, but there were times where he was productive for the Padres. He just got absolutely destroyed because people didn't want him, because they either wanted to keep Myers at first base or they wanted to move Myers to the outfield for Josh Naylor. So because of that, they're like, oh, we're going to rip this guy because we never want him because of that. Bogaerts, same thing. People either wanted Kim at short or Tatis back at short. So when they signed Bogaerts, they're like, oh, well, we could have just kept Kim there, could have put Tatis back there, and I didn't want Bogaerts, so I'm going to crap on him no matter what he does. It's like, that's dumb. I've talked about that a little bit before. It's really stupid. Like, even if he has a great season, like, they're still going to nitpick the bad stuff on him. For the record, I don't expect him to have a great season at all. I mean, I think the contract's really bad, but to say he's automatically going to have an awful season because of 15 spring training at bats before March 10th, like, come on, guys. Come on. That's not how it works. I do want to say about the Padres, they made another signing today. All I have to say is 3 letters, and you guys can figure out who it is. OMG. Yeah, that guy. Jose Iglesias. I think this last year with the Mets, I thought the song was was a very bad song, honestly. And it was kind of annoying how, the whole OMG thing when, the Mets, that was a little annoying, obnoxious to me. But as a player, it's actually a good move, because last year, he was considered by many to be the spark plug that, changed the Mets season, because he came up in late May when the Mets were one of the worst teams in baseball. They were like 11 games under 500. He comes up and, he's a spark plug, great in the clubhouse. Like I said, they rallied around the whole OMG thing and all that, but he was actually really good on the field too. And this is what stands out to me. He hit 402, 455, 543 was his slash line against lefties last year. That's a lot. That makes him a very logical platoon partner with Cronenworth at second base, because Cronenworth was pretty much unplayable against lefties last year. Jake Cronenworth against right-handed pitching was actually a very good I wouldn't say a very good major league hitter, but it was solid against righties last year, and with his defense at second base, that's playable. So this is what Cronenworth against righties last year. 255, 340, and 349 slash, 779 OPS. That's actually pretty good. When you consider his defense at second base, but his slash line against lefties was 203, 277, 255, a 531 OPS. That's dreadful and unplayable. So like if Cronenworth is, has those numbers against righties, that's good enough with his defense at second base, and you put Iglesias, who he can pick it over there at second base, and you put him against lefties there. That's good. I mean, that's a good platoon right there. Like I said, too, his arrival, kind of changed the Mets season. So, pro far gone, we're looking for vibes of replacement. VAR, shout out to Divine Sports Gospel for that. He could replace that, for sure. I mean, you see whatever team he's been on, whenever we've played whatever team he's on, you see like he gets to third base, when his team's batting. And him and Manny are like, I don't know how they know each other and are friends, but they're total boys. Like they're really good friends. So, great. So that's good to see that he already has that built in. I think for people who understandably didn't want anything to do with Yuli Gurriel, I think you're pretty safe on him making the team after this, considering that he doesn't have the versatility, obviously defensively, that Iglesias does, and does much less on a field than Iglesias. So I think you can kind of rule him out for making the team. Probably hurts Eggy Rosario and Oscar Gonzalez as well, because Iglesias is a right-handed bat. And I know people are going to say, well, if Iglesias is going to get $3 million in the majors, how's that going to work? Doesn't that take him over the second luxury tax threshold? I mean, I'm still expecting Yuki Matsui or Wandy Peralta to be dealt before opening day. I kind of talked about when the Sasaki thing was going on. I was like, well, you could trade one of them, get international bonus money that could free up some, that could help you give him a bigger bonus if that's what entices him. And then you see the reports they were willing to offer him as much as like 10 million bonus, and we're gonna had trades lined up in case he said he was coming. They were gonna make those trades to get the money. Obviously he didn't come here though, so those trades didn't happen. So I was always speculating that would be like Peralta or Matsui, that you'd be trading for that. And maybe now they'll get like a player renamed later, to get actual talent back for them instead. But I do expect one of them to be traded before spring training, mostly because you already have Maury Holmes, so you only really need one of them in your bullpen. So yeah, I would still expect to see that sometime before opening day. That's all I got for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this, guys, and I will be back with more soon. It'll probably be Monday night because I'll be getting back from spring training pretty late Sunday night. So next recording will probably be Monday, and it'll probably be with Maddie talking about the Aztecs regular season finale against Nevada, previewing the Mountain West tournament. Excuse me. Anything that notable from Padres spring training over the weekend, and then we'll talk about SDFC, how they did against Salt Lake, because that game's happening Saturday as well. Thanks for listening, guys. Until next time.